So you can really play and then have them, and then you sort of more or less orchestrate one instrument and they break it up. So playing with them, and then I functioned as sort of the air around them, and sometimes just playing some of the overtones underneath the phrases that they're playing. It's a piece called Landfall, and it's about the Hurricane Sandy. Not about, I mean, it's so silly to say a work is about a hurricane. I mean, like it was a name that landed on top of this work. So I think that's one of the hardest things I don't know how you, I'm hoping that we're going to do a Q&A thing, because I'm very curious about how, if anybody has an easy time doing titles. I think it's just so hard to get, one or two or three or four even forwards to sum up your work. Or when you hear a really good title of something that really does that, it's very inspiring, So anyway, Landfall ended up to be that because it was a quartet piece of music about, in a way, about many of the stories connected to it were about loss. And so at the end of writing this whole thing was Hurricane Sandy blew into town, and in my basement there was everything, a huge number of things, projectors and old sculptures and paintings and papers and all this stuff, and it was completely destroyed, and water is amazing. Water is so powerful. It just shreds electronics. They just go into their component parts. It's really, really odd how you think it's not going to do that to that box of electronics. It does. So I lost all of these things, and at first I was like so devastated. I was like, all my work, and a couple of days later, I had completely reversed my whole feeling about it, because I was thinking, what is down there? What is down there? For one thing, 30 slide projectors that had been connected via MIDI, a completely extinct electronic system, that I would, and I thought, when is the next time I'm going to bring these up in the basement, hook them up via MIDI, and do a show? And the answer is never. And so I began to be very grateful to have this stuff washed away, and I was very happy to and then your insurance goes, oh, well, I can pay for that. So have someone pay to clean your basements. Nice. And then I started throwing all sorts of other things away, and just kind of trying to make my life simpler. My life has been supposedly about losing things, and yet at the same time, the experience of having of losing things is hallucinatory and wonderful. So I'm really enjoying this experience of being lighter and trying to think of, what is it what do you want anyway? What is it that you want? So I really, hurricanes do that to you. They will. They just kind of, and dogs too. That's why I'm making this film about the dog. Dogs make you think about what it is that you want, just because there's so much about pure love, and it's people who don't have dogs probably think that's a really stupid thing to say, but I learned more about love for my dog than any human being, and also how to get old. I learned that from my dog too. She just got slower, and it was just, and a lot of things from her. Anyway, so that's why I wanted to make this movie about her, and then it became about, as I said, about all sorts of other things, particularly vision, because Lola went blind, and she was not one of these good blind dogs, like a lot of dogs. They're fine when they're blind. Their other senses kick in into hyperdrive. Their sense of smell is like right there. Their touch, their, hearing. It's all, they can navigate quite well. Lola Bell just froze in place. She's like, would not move. We'd like pick her up to take her out and this kind of thing. And so I thought, what am I going to do? So we found a dog trainer who said, well, I taught my dogs to play piano. And we said, you did? She said, teach our dog to play piano. So she taught Lullabelle how to play, and you'll see when you look her up. I hope you do, because you know, her Facebook page is getting lots of hits, and push it. And she played a huge number of types of things, and she would run over to the piano. This was also when a vet said, you know what? I think I'm really sorry to say this. It's really tempting. You know, you have to put her down because she's the quality of life. And you know how when vets are like preparing to give you that, you know, you can put her down speech. I was like, you know what? I know that you want to give me this speech and you've prepared this speech, and you know I know it's a useful speech, but don't give me this speech because I'm not going to do this. So anyway, the film also follows Lullabelle through the Bardo, and this 49-day period, as the Tibetans believe, happens to you when you die, that your energy goes into another, breaks down, you know, and your identity and chi breaks down and prepares to enter another life form, according to the Tibetans, and the Tibetan Book of the Dead, also called the Great Liberation Through Hearing. So I am, since the first person I knew well who died, it was a death involving meditation and Buddhism. And this was a friend of mine, Gordon Matta Clark, a wonderful sculptor. And when Gordon died, I was part of a group that was we were all writing operas. Okay, so it was like the 70s, and we were all writing operas. Phil Glass, Trisha Brown, Gordon Matta Clark. It was like we all had pickup trucks and we were writing operas in downtown New York. That was our scene. So Gordon got very sick, and he had 24 hours left to live. So, and that is a very clear 24 hours with the liver cancer. You were poisoned over 24 hours, but you're lucid. So Gordon decided to use that time reading to his friends. So we were in the hospital, and he just read to us for 24 hours. And as the time of his death approaches, 2 lamas are on either side, and according to the Tibetans, hearing is the last sense to go. So that your brain flatlines, your eyes shut down, everything, all the senses closed on you. Your hammers are still hammering. So they believe that they need to shout instructions to at that point. So the lamas at that point are yelling into Gordon's ears, "Gordon, you're dead! You're dead now! Gordon, you're dead!" And look for 2 lights. There's one light close, there's one light far. So go to the far one, not the close one. Anyway, a whole series of instructions because it's quite confused. So, as they believe. So, anyway, that experience of entering the Bardo for me was this 49-day period in which you were not allowed to cry. So that is a very important thing, not to cry. So because you don't want to bring that person back, and you want to push them out, and crying will not help you. So no crying. And so anyway, the Bardo then is the center of this film that I'm making, and a break as the image, as your senses break down. And so there are also subplots in this film. It got kind of complicated from starting with the dog movie. It was also about how we make stories, and that really is a very basic thing to the film, and how we collect things and turn them into stories, and what a story is. Particularly inspired by our NSA, which is putting all our stories in a big cloud, which is, can you imagine how chaotic that thing is? Everybody's stories if they're floating around, you know. I don't know about you, I'm pretty worried mine is getting mixed up with a lot of other people, you know. It's a mess, you know. So anyway, and also you have this aspect of when you, they're very unorganized until you commit a crime. And when you commit a crime, then you go into the backstory. You see, oh, which website did he go to? What did he buy? What did he do? What did he say? So you're like going backwards. Like, you know, Kierkegaard said, you know, your life has to be lived forwards, but it can only be understood when lived backwards. So you have to then, you know, start moving back and forward in the story. And also in this festival, I'm watching, as people are telling these stories, which the motion is really fascinating to me, like how it's going, how it's moving through time. And so that's one of the most interesting things. I also want to talk in our Q&A part of, I want to say one thing about images, because I just sort of skidded over that a little too quickly, which is I recently read some things about Afghani women who are, and I've been talking to a couple of people here about this the last couple of days because it's really been on my mind. There's a story that I was made aware of this Afghani family, mostly women, 4 women, a 9-year-old girl and a grandmother and a young woman and a university professor.